Hey, good morning, everybody. I'm Hot Rod Bob, and you've got GAAS, the Great American Auto Scene, your award-winning, worldwide view podcast, radio show, TV show. It's been everywhere, and it's still going strong here on Facebook every week, at least. You know, we've got some different times because we're traveling, but hey, we're still going strong. Hey, today's show is about Woodies. And I've had a number of Woodies in my day. Love having Woodies. They are so much fun. And, you know, we've even joined a club, the Santa Barbara Woody Club, and everyone in that club has a Woody. It's just amazing. And they are just, oh, you're snickering. I see a bunch of you snicker. What do you think I'm talking about? I'm talking about Woodies. Wagons, station wagons. Surfer cars, wooden-bodied cars. Ooh, I see what you're thinking. That's not what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about are the fun cars that began as work vehicles. That's right. The modern-day Woody, as we know them, and there's really no modern-day Woody, but the Woodies came out in the early 1900s, and they started out as what they called depot hacks. It was a work vehicle. And a depot hack because, well, a hack was considered a truck or a wagon that could haul things. And a depot hack was one that would haul people and goods and luggage from the train depots. So they called them depot hacks. Now, many companies made the bodies, the wood bodies. A lot of people made their own. And they'd buy, say, a Model T, for an example, chop off or take off the regular body parts, and put on a long roof, wooden-bodied box. And it was a box. It really was. It was a rectangular box. And it was big enough to hold maybe 2 to 3 rows of seating, so you could put people in there, and then an area in the back behind the seats to store luggage. They called them depot hacks. They were work vehicles. Well, they started to catch on. More and more people were building them. And by 1929, Ford decided they'd get into the act by building a factory-manufactured depot hack or wooden station wagon. By this point, they stopped calling them hacks. They started calling them station wagons. Train station instead of depot, and wagon, station wagon, because it was like an old covered wagon. And that's what they did. So they called them station wagons. 1929 was the first production Woody by Ford. A number of the company's manufacturers started to come in with their own version of the Woody station wagon later on, but never as successful as the Ford Woodies. In the 20th century, well, these cars were very labor-intensive. I say labor-intensive because basically they were furniture on wheels, and they needed to be maintained. Good morning, Don. How are you doing this morning? And Rob Pratt. And a host of others that have got in there, but names are going really quickly on here. All right, so 1929, the first production Woody by Ford. Now, Ford was really smart in his, well, manufacturing process. He owned the forest they'd get the wood from to build the Woody bodies. Now, the other thing he did is they specified the size of crates that suppliers would put parts in. For example, a transmission would come from a supplier. The crate the transmission came in was specifically designed by Ford, and the manufacturer of the transmission, the supplier, had to abide by that and make the box as Ford dictated. That meant there were holes in certain locations. There were certain sizes of the wood, sides and fronts and backs. Now, Ford, smart as he was, saved money because he would take those crates, take them apart. They were cut and finished to fit in the Ford cars. They became the floorboards and other parts, and they were manufactured by the supplier of the parts. So Ford saved time in manufacturing, saved cost in purchasing and milling and cutting wood. The suppliers were doing it. Now, the wood-body cars started out with the 1929, the introduction of the Model A Ford. The Model A was Edsel Ford's design, and he spearheaded that car to replace the old, outdated Model T. Now, Henry wanted to keep that Model T going because, well, it was reliable. It had very few parts considering the type of car it was, and people were buying them. They were still buying them. But Chevrolet had come out, and they were starting to encroach into Ford's business big time. Chevrolet became the #1 model car, or make car, in the latter years of the Model T. Edsel saw the writing on the wall, designed the Model A. The Model A had 3-speed manual transmission instead of the antiquated planetary gear transmission the Model T had. Now, a lot of people look at a Model T, and when I was working for one company, they had a display vehicle that was a Model T, and the guy said, "We can't get it to move." Well, they were pushing what they thought was a clutch. It was actually first and reverse. I had to explain that to them. They didn't believe me until they figured out how to drive it. But that's another story altogether. We're back to Woody's. Cars. Don Balzeroni, we're talking about cars here. I know I got your attention, but what the heck. Now, eventually, auto manufacturers started producing their own versions of the Woody station wagon. And some of them were better than what the Fords were, but Ford still had the lock on it. And they finally started to put things in them that, well, people liked in a sedan. And College of Hot Rod Knowledge is what Rex Road is telling me to change things to. All right, so the station wagons first started out, no windows. They had side curtains. People made curtains for the sides to keep the weather out as much as they could. Heaters? Forget it. They didn't happen. Air conditioning? Hadn't been invented yet. So side curtains were on most of the cars, the Woodies, back in that day. The other manufacturers started coming out with Woodies. Like Chevrolet waited until 1939 before they came out with their first Woody. It had roll-up windows. It had fixed windows in the back and the sides. This is something Ford hadn't done with their original Woodies. But by 1934, they started thinking about this. And by 1935, the windows were fixed. They rolled up on the sides, they were fixed in the back, and they were weather-tight vehicles. They even had heaters as an option. But it was still a wood-bodied car, and wood-bodied cars took a lot of attention. You had to maintain the finish on the outside of the vehicle, and in rough weather, such as in the East Coast and the North, snow, ice, rain, they would all take their toll on the wood-bodied cars. So they became difficult to maintain, and you see a lot of cars where the woods turned gray or dark in colors because they didn't keep the shellac, and when there was no urethane at the time, the finish, the shellacking, up to date and clear and sealed. So water would get in and it would stain and deteriorate the wood. Some people call these things termite delight. Wonder why. But anyway, the wooden-bodied cars still started to proliferate. Now, there weren't that many. And in 1932, Ford's year of the introduction of the V8, they only manufactured about 1,600 wooden-bodied station wagons in 1932. Now, if you can get a 1932 Ford Woody, a real Ford Woody, then, man, you've got a very rare vehicle. Model A's were built in more numbers, and they were built for 4 years, and they were pretty good. As a matter of fact, I'm looking at one right now. Now, cars started evolving. The wood cars were considered now a luxury vehicle. Now, you saw a lot of hotels using wood-bodied cars. They put their names on the side. They dressed them up. They looked very, very rich. And in some of the bigger hotels, that is what they used to pick up passengers at the train stations. Again, that's another reason why they changed the name to station wagons. But the wood was luxurious, and they were very well received by those people who purchased them. Now, Chevrolet initially started station wagons in all steel, but they were based on their truck chassis because they were heavier. That didn't go over real well, and people didn't really flock to them. As a matter of fact, station wagons really didn't pick up in popularity until the 50s after World War II because, well, they were the mommy wagons of the time. And it was before the days of the minivan. The station wagon was the way to go when you had a family. There were third-row seats, there were long roofs, they had racks, they held everything and all the kids. So station wagons started becoming popular, but wood started going away. And in many cases, the wood became more dressing than structure. The early wooden cars were structurally wood. The later wooden cars, beginning in the late 1940s, early 1950s, were more of a appearance sake. By 1953, the last of the wood-bodied cars rolled off the assembly line. Ford was one of the last to do that, and it was still just inserts as they started in 1949. Buick still had their woody through 1953, that was it. And it was somewhat structural, but somewhat just added on. Chevrolet had dropped wood by 1949. It was only on the interiors. And some companies started producing vehicles that were steel. Hi, Gail. Good morning to you. Norm Roberts. So they had tin woodies, as they were called, or steel woodies, where they shaped the metal to look like wood. In some cases, people painted them to look like wood graining the metal. And I've seen a few of those. They look pretty good. They're pretty solid vehicles. Plymouth had both steel woodies or steel wagons and wooden-bodied wagons. The steel wagons were two-door. The four-door wagons were woodies through about 1951-52. After that, Chrysler Corporation got out of wood-bodied station wagons. However, they did have what they called sportsmen, as did town and countries. Ford called theirs a sportsman. They weren't wagons. Convertibles, four-door sedans, two-door sedans. They had wood not only as a appearance piece, but structural. And they were cool looking. These were very high-line luxury cars, kind of personal luxury vehicles. The Ford Sportsman was a beautiful convertible with wood doors, wood back section, all the way through the trunk. Chrysler did the same thing, town and country. They had hardtops, they had four-door sedans, they had two doors. They were very cool-looking cars. But again, maintenance of the wood was still the issue. So wood went away back in about 1953, 54, probably, maybe, was the last of those. And they started going to different materials that looked like wood. Fiberglass, plastics, stamped steel, all with a wood grain appearance on them. And that stayed on pretty much through the 70s, when they got rid of the plastics and went to an applique or Dynoc, like a decal, a vinyl decal that was set on the side of the vehicle to make it look like a woody. And Chrysler did that even on the K cars through the 1980s. So the wood trim, resembling what was an old woody, was still rather popular and still considered a very attractive option for vehicles. As a matter of fact, I even had a PT Cruiser woody, which had a combination of the plastic that's shaped like wood and the applique to look like wood graining down the sides and the tailgate of the vehicle. So it was still quite popular. It was gone away of late, but man, you could still get those. And I remember having one of those, and it was kind of cool for the time. Now, despite the interest in the woodies waning on new vehicle sales, hot rodders, surfers, they started gathering these cars up. And they were inexpensive at the time because, well, people didn't want to maintain them anymore. They were just an old car. Let's get rid of it. Surfers started gathering to these cars and have preserved them. And a good woody today is not something that's hard to find. You're thinking again. But they are quite popular. And in some cases, you can see them selling for hundreds of thousands of dollars if it's the right model, the rarity of the car, and the quality of the build. A lot of woodies have become modified and altered. And hot rodding has taken over where the surfers left off. Surfers moved on to vans and other things, and roof racks and Subarus and all sorts of things. But the 49 to 51 Ford and Mercury wagons, they featured an insert, and those are real popular. As a matter of fact, when the TV show Mod Squad started, they had a Merc Woody as the car that those kids drove around with. My heart sunk when they destroyed the car during one of the new seasons. A Mercury Woody. Oh, tough to find. Ford kept going, and I'm looking here, and it was 1952 that Ford stopped doing the Woodies. By 53, they were an applique, no longer structural. Buick continued on until 53. Now, the surfer woodies continue on, and there's a number of companies that are reproducing and manufacturing wood bodies that you can convert a Model A, a Model T, or what have you into a wooden-bodied car. I've seen Willys made into woodies. I had a tin Willys woody for a while. So you never know, and they're still going. Now, I just heard discouraging that Mr. Carr from Wooden Car, who started reproducing not only hot rod, but reproduction wooden body cars, just passed away out of Signal Hill, California. And he was a prime mover in the woody movement, bringing many cars back to life with his excellent wooden body replicas. And he would come up with, not only you could restore, he would make an actual restored wooden body for you, whether it was parts or pieces or the whole body, or he would make hot rod versions. So that Hercules Motors back east would make a two-door 33, 34 Ford body, and others would make their own handcrafted body. So the wooden-bodied cars are popular. My wife and I joined, as I said, the Santa Barbara Woody Club, where everyone's got a Woody, and we're having fun hanging out with these guys. Cool bunch of people, and you know what? I think there's going to be a wooden-bodied car in our future, and we're looking forward to it. I'm Hot Rod Bob. You've got gas with a little bit of wood mixed in today, and hope you guys have a great day. GAAS, the Great American Auto Scene, brought to you by Service Tech Equipment out of Simi Valley, California, and Dreg Cartoons, Pete Millar's great cartoon magazine. And Robin Millar keeping her dad's legacy alive with that. GAAS, the Great American Auto Scene, available on YouTube, iTunes, Sketcher, Anchor FM, and any place you can get your podcast. Whether it's audio or video you want to see, it's there. I'm Hot Rod Bob. You've got gas. Please subscribe to our YouTube channels and our Anchor FM channels and Apple iTunes. It doesn't cost you anything. We never charge for our shows. Randy Kerdoon and I, talking about cars, Two Tired Guys Productions, bringing you gas and Two Tired Guys. As a matter of fact, our latest Talking About Cars episode just hit the airwaves, and we're talking about camper trailers. They're fun. Check it out. I'm Hot Rod Bob. You've got gas. Hope to see you soon. Gustavo, take care. Have a great day.